like to welcome everybody to tonight's workshop. Today is Monday, June 17, 2024. The time is 6 o'clock p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is roll call.
Mayor Scott Nichols.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Frank Burton.
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton Boone.
Here.
Councilmember Shauna Hume.
Here.
Councilmember Adam Dyer.
Here.
Okay. We can skip the next item, which is excusal of council members, since we're all here. Next is additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda, if any. Does anyone on council have any changes?
Nope.
Hearing none, we will move on to public comments. We all know we're here tonight this is a workshop. This is not something where we're going to make an official determination or decision. We're here to take your input, have discussion, and then we will go from there. So we'll go ahead and start off with the public comments first, and then we'll bring it back to council, and we'll have discussion at that point. So, with that being said, the first person is Nicholas Kaplowitz. Please state your name and address.
Thank you. Nick Kaplowitz, 20 Navajo Circle. Yes, I am a resident. I think I would like to start off, since I'm first. Last time we spoke about this, it seemed that we didn't even acknowledge that there was an issue with parking. So if there's one thing that I'd like to make very clear, I believe there is an issue with parking, so we do need to do something with it. What that is, that's what we're here to talk about. I would like to share my last experience going to Bicentennial Beach, which was this Friday, around 11 a.m. I showed up, 11:30 maybe, and got the last parking spot, which I'm sure probably isn't even a parking spot, but if you pull right in, there's one right on the end that people usually don't park there, and you can fit there. So we parked there. We get our stuff unloaded. It was a beautiful day, very busy, crowded. We set up shop. About an hour into the day, we watched somebody on the boardwalk get arrested for I don't know what, but somebody was arrested. There was a group of people who obviously weren't local there and doing something they probably weren't supposed to be doing. So we sat there and watched that happen. We also watched people leave trash on the beach. And when the wind started to pick up, my father-in-law was there with us, and there were some people that I've never seen before who had a 10-by-10 tent set up, didn't know how to properly secure a tent, and we were very fortunate that thing didn't kill us, because it went flying and hit my father-in-law right in the side of the head, bounced right over. I cannot even believe that no one got hurt from this thing. It was just by the grace of God, this thing bounced right between us, went flying. But I think the point is, we do have an issue with the beaches. We have to pay money for police to take care of these things. Every time I try to go to my own beach, I can't even park, which is the most upsetting thing to me. So we need to do something, whether that's paid parking or resident parking. I know the boot thing isn't very popular and the enforcement is an issue, but I'm confident we can figure all these things out. But we need to do something, because it's kind of annoying, honestly, that every time I try to go to my own local beach to see my neighbors, I can't go there, or if I do, I don't really see many of my neighbors. I saw Meredith, who I'm sure is here. That was the only one of my neighbors I saw at the beach on Friday. The first time I've been there in months, because I couldn't find parking. But I appreciate that this council would at least acknowledge that there is an issue and that we're going to do something for the community, because we only have 50-something parking spots. We went through this last time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next is Devin Batchelor. I didn't make you go first, you went second.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, I'm Devin Batchelor. I'm at 920 Golden Beach Boulevard, resident. I think what's going on here is that maybe 5, 7, 10 years ago, the beach parking wasn't as much of an issue, but what's happening is that Satellite Beach is now doing beach parking. Indialantic's doing beach parking. Cocoa Beach does beach parking. Everybody is doing that, and what's happening is now word has gotten out that we're not. So when they can't park at Canova, they're overflowing to Millennium. They're overflowing to Bicentennial because those are the next ones in line. My husband grew up here. He graduated from Satellite. We've been around for years and years and years, and he's like, I've never seen the parking lots this full. We go every weekend. We're a surf family. My kids surf. We cannot even park at our own beach, and it's frustrating. You know, I won't even get into the whole thing with the homeless situation. That's a whole other ballgame. But with Indian Harbor Beach also not being able to have regulations with the vacation rentals and stuff like some of the other towns already had in place, we're getting put on the map now as a new resort town, which is fine, except that now we're getting all these people that are staying in these Airbnbs and these vacation rentals, and they're all coming to the beach, and like the people that live here who are paying taxes and who are here year-round, we can't even get there and enjoy the beach. And we're the ones that are picking up the trash every time we leave the beach, and we're, you know, doing all the right things, and we're doing the beach cleanups and stuff, and it just becomes very frustrating. So as the gentleman said before, I think there's got to be a reasonable solution somewhere. I don't know what it is. I've lived in a lot of beach towns my entire life, all over. Every single one of them had some kind of either metered parking or permit parking or something in place to keep that kind of protected for the people that live here and who are residents. And I think that, you know, you can offer some kind of thing for out-of-town people, and that's fine, but I think you have to keep the residents of the town happy, because we're a small town, and you know, we can't fit all these other people coming in from over the bridge or out of town and everything. It's really just becoming frustrating. We got kiddos. So I don't know exactly what the solution is. I think everybody would be willing to work together with you guys and try to come up with some ideas, but I think collectively we can all agree, like, it is a major situation, and people are having to park in private businesses across the street, cross their fingers that they don't get towed, or that the businesses don't eventually get mad and, you know, put up gates or lock their stuff down. So that's pretty much it, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is Jennifer Kirsting. Hope I got that right.
Hi, I'm Jenny Kirsting. I live at 927 Lydia Circle. I just want to say that I just don't see any negative whatsoever to pay for parking in our area. It's good for the town. It's more income. I think that we're talking about the residents being able to have parking permits. That's good for the residents too. So I feel like I don't see any negative whatsoever to the residents of Indian Harbor Beach, and we are the city of Indian Harbor, or the town of Indian Harbor Beach. So I feel like I cannot think of a negative. And when I go to other counties' beaches, I have no problem paying for parking whatsoever. It's not an exorbitant fee. I don't see a problem with it whatsoever for our town or for anywhere else. When I go somewhere else and when I stay here, I feel like it's just a good thing for our town. And for other places I go, I don't mind paying there. I don't want to, I mean, I would love to be able to not pay at my own beaches. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's a problem for people that want to come in, that are staying even in our Airbnbs, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I don't think it's a problem for them to pay for that parking either. So I'm definitely pro. I really, really hope we can figure out a solution that will enable us to pay for parking there.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is Susan Romy.
everyone. First of all, I want to agree with both what everyone said already, but just add that today, we recently switched our surf camp from Millennium to Bicentennial. And I pulled in, it was about a minute late, there was no parking, I had to sort of make a spot out of an illegal spot. And sure enough, shortly after, the police showed up to give tickets because there was no parking. So my only option with the surfboards, with the kids, with everything is to then park across the street at Lowe's, which no one wants that to happen either. So my only thought is that if we do some kind of passes for the residents, we could at least be a priority. I know everyone talks about 30, 40 years ago, we didn't have parking and we walked on the beach with our grandchildren, but it's a very different area. It's really an interchangeable flock of strangers at the beach. I mean, it's not your community because none of us can get parking. It's people that you've never seen, and they seem to be getting the priority. And additionally, I just want to add that there are always 2 to 3 homeless people that live in their cars. Those people never move their cars, and they monopolize those spots. So even just 3 spots, it makes a big difference. What else? And I guess the main thing is just recognizing this is a problem and trying to find a solution. And how much time? I guess that'll be it for now.
You got a minute and a half.
So let me tell you how my day was today.
There you go.
What can I say? It's just become really frustrating. We don't even go to the beach anymore on weekends because there is no parking. We went at 5 o'clock the other night. We didn't recognize anybody. There's no shot of parking on a Saturday or Sunday. And it's just taken away the fun of things, and it no longer feels like a community beach. So I'm hoping we could all work together and try to find some kind of a solution, because there's definitely a problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is Kristen Carlisle.
Hello, my name's Kristen Carlisle. I'm at 922 Golden Beach Boulevard. I just agree with everybody. We've lived here for a little over 10 years now, and we used to not have an issue being able to park at the beach. And now, you know, I have 3 children, and I come, and if I don't have my husband with me, sometimes I get there, there's nowhere to park, and I'm kind of left with, do I bring all my kids across the street, park illegally? We have to truck everything. We're also in surf camp. We have to bring our surfboards, our wagon, our chairs, our umbrella across the street. Or do I leave my kids here by themselves so I can go park across the street with all our stuff? And it's just become, again, sometimes we don't go to the beach anymore because it makes me anxious to have to deal with that on my own. It's frustrating. I would like a solution. I'm happy to work towards a solution, so I hope that we can find one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Deborah Tweedy.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Tweedy. I live at 936 Golden Beach Boulevard. 18 years ago, we moved over from Sarasota to here. We came here because it's a family town. When I take my grandsons to the beach, there will be parties going on, and I know that they rent out the pavilions and so forth, but they're there from dawn to dusk, and they must have like 20 cars in there. Again, the neighborhood that's all here, they can't go to the beach, okay? Again, the Airbnbs on our street, we have quite a few of them. They have 4 or 5 cars in each house. They're all taking their wagons going down to the beach. Weekends, we don't even go. We have a golf cart thinking that would be easier, but again, not enough parking even for a golf cart. We take the skinny one next to the entrance. And again, maybe more golf cart parking, because if you do a raise a hand, I think there's quite a few golf carts in here. And maybe we can make more car spots. One time we parked over by the fence and by the bathroom on the grass because there was snow, and we got a ticket, so we paid it. But we need more parking. We need something that gives residents first dibs. Thank you very much for looking into it.
Okay, thank you. right, next is river roaming.
Hi, my name is River Romy, and I live at 911 Golden Beach Boulevard. And I do a surf camp, and we had to move beaches because of the parking. And I really don't think that's fair because it's either Airbnbers or homeless people who are taking up spots. And our beach, we had to switch to a beach that had rocks, and all of us fell a lot, and we all got scraped. I just forgot everything I was about to say.
You're doing a great job. You're doing a
You don't
great
have,
job.
you don't have to take it all, but
Great job. All right, next
got
is
his brother.
Andrew Bargo.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andrew Bargo. I live at 209 Bella Coola Drive in Indian Harbor Beach, obviously. First thing I wanted to say is I'm the first one that doesn't want paid parking. I hate it. It's horrible. But when everyone does it around you, you're going to have to go that route. I mean, your beaches are going to get swamped, whatnot. Also, for a long time, I don't blame Harbour House. They're small. They don't have much parking over there. They take up a lot of parking in the afternoons, on the weekends, whenever they have parties. It's great to have them there. It's an awesome place. I like it. I'm glad they're there. But they may need to do something, also work something out with Indian Harbor to not take up all the spaces sometimes when there's parties over there at Bicentennial. I've run into that a lot over the years. And again, I don't blame them. I understand. It's free parking. Maybe we could work on that too. Also, I just wanted to say that Satellite Beach, the beaches over there are now less crowded. I've been paying attention. I'm an avid surfer. I've been surfing 43 years, and I park at Buck, which is Grant Avenue, all the time. I used to be able to go there and have to park behind the Goodwill, which they're graceful. They're grateful. I'm grateful enough that we can park behind there in the back parking lot. Get there at 8 o'clock. I've got kids in the morning. I got to get them ready, whatnot. And now I can park there. There's spaces usually in the morning when there's good surf. So they've moved. So people don't want to pay there. Also, I just want to say last Saturday, or Sunday last week, not yesterday, there were 10 to 12 cars at Paradise Sunday morning about 10 a.m. At Bicentennial, they were full. Okay? And this was after the meeting started to leave and everything. And there were a dozen cars or more that couldn't find spaces, and they left. I have photos, okay? I took photos today. There were only 2 spaces at 5 p.m., all right? Brevard is growing exponentially, okay? We're going up instead of out. We're getting to be Palm Beach, all right? And there's a lot of people. Taxes will go up. They're going up like crazy. Inflation's killing all of us, okay? I'm having to take from my savings account here and there. It's dwindling because of things going up. I'm getting hit at work from new laws and everything. So inflation's up. Taxes. Why can't we get some of that from other people that come to our beaches? We want to keep it beautiful over here so they can come. I pick up more trash lately than I ever have. Is it from people that are from Indian Harbor? Probably not, usually. But
Thank you, Andrew.
that's it?
Sorry,
Okay.
Sorry.
I got everything in.
Gotta be fair to
hey,
everybody.
he's tough.
Nah, just gotta keep it even for
I
everybody,
understand.
so.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Kyle Mallett, is that right? Okay.
Hello, my name's Kyle Mallett. I live at 368 Ocean Spray Avenue in Satellite Beach. I am not a resident of the city, obviously, but nonetheless, I thought it was important to be here to share my experience of being a Satellite resident where beach parking was implemented last year. What I can tell you is that I think it's probably the smartest thing that you guys could do. beach parking has allowed for the residents of Satellite Beach, where we have significantly more parking than you guys do, to actually be able to use our beaches. We had the same problem of not being able to find parking for our own residents, going out there, having to deal with trash, vandalism, homeless, all kinds of things that you guys are now experiencing as probably a direct result of us implementing beach parking in our city. And I think that if you guys implement beach parking in your city, you will see most of those problems go away, possibly to the detriment of the residents of my city, where if you guys are also charging for parking, then there's not going to be any free parking that people can just move one town over to from Satellite to Indian Harbor, and they'll probably end up back in Satellite and paying for parking. So we'll probably lose some of that parking, but to the previous gentleman's point, you know, there seems to be a lot more of it. So I think we have the ability to withstand that, and it appears you guys do not. I'm not sure how you're supposed to make 55 spots work for 9,000 people, but hey, 55 is better than 0, right? And so, you know, the folks that want the free ride, essentially, they can go to Pineda Beach up at the base. They can go, you know, further south to other places where there's not paid parking if that's what they're looking for. But I think it's a smart move on your part to be able to protect the spaces for your residents, and at the very worst, be able to collect some additional tax revenues to offset some of your costs to deal with, you know, vandalism and deal with having to have the police arrest people on the boardwalk and paying for their salaries with money from people who don't pay property taxes here in the city. So I think, like I said, I think, you know, there's so many benefits, and there's a lot of people who are opposed. There's still a lot of people who are opposed to the parking program that's in existence, but ultimately, the reason that beach parking was implemented in Satellite Beach was for the benefit of the residents, and of course, you guys as the, you know, council members and representatives of those folks in your city, I think it's the right thing for you guys to do to implement a similar program. Whether or not you enforce the same way, which seems to be the big sticking point, obviously is up to you guys, but I would certainly encourage you to move forward with something to be able to protect your beaches for your residents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next is John Panuel.
My name is John Penuel. I'm at 946 Flotilla Club Drive. My family and I love our little town and our community, and we are in favor of a paid parking solution at the beaches. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Deborah Nugent.
Good evening, distinguished mayor, deputy mayor, council members, and Mr. Coffey. He's a great guy. Love him. And all of you, thank you for coming, because I certainly didn't expect the turnout that we got today. Deborah Nugent, sorry. My husband, I'm here really on behalf of my husband, who's a 45-year owner at Seacoast Gardens, which is directly across from Millennium Park.
Right.
And my husband is handicapped. So even though we live across the street, I'm the one who has to load up everything and carry the cooler and the cart and the chairs and the umbrella and so on and so forth. And sometimes it's just easier if I just drove across the street and put it into a handicap zone, a parking space, dropped him off, and then came back across the street. Forget about it since last October. It's not happening. We can't find a parking space, not even a golf cart space, across the street. What I can find is parking spaces right next door at Atlantis, because Atlantis, for some odd reason, that's the professional center next door to us, they allow people to park, the overflow parking. So that's contributing to the fact that the popularity of Millennium Park. Vesta Management, I tried to get a hold of them. That's the management company that manages Atlantis. I wasn't able to reach them this week, but we find that, and many of you probably understand, the surf camps know that's where you park, because there's no parking at Millennium. So just wanted to mention that fact. Now, last week, my husband and I went across the street, me schlepping the cart and him toddling along. And we got down to the beach and we set up, and there was a party, some type of birthday party. Many of you know because I sent it in an email to you. And it was maybe 9 separate tents. They were all joining for somebody's 10-year-old's birthday party, which was fine, but they weren't from here. And it was exacerbated because many of the guests brought their animals, their dogs. And they said, this is Canoga Park. I said, no, it's not Canoga Park. There was 5 dogs, 3 of them running unleashed. And I went up to them, because my husband had a service dog. His dog just passed away. And I'm just checking on the time. I have a few more points, so I don't want to belabor the point.
9 seconds.
I'm sorry?
6 seconds, so.
Keep
Oh,
talking.
we mentioned the dogs. Last week, somebody mentioned something about, well, if it's nice weather, everybody comes out to the park. Well, this week, I checked. In bad weather, the surfers were out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next is Alex Keppel-Fitz. Oh, I'm getting there. Just give me a few more times.
Excellent.
I'm
Excellent
inching my
job.
way closer.
Excellent job, Mayor.
You gotta admit, that's a little unfair.
Excellent.
Hey, Alex Kaplowitz, 211 Micanopy Court. I had this whole thing prepped, but I really couldn't have said it better myself. I think everyone pretty much covered what I was gonna say, but there are a couple things I do wanna add. The beach parking availability, I actually have some numbers on that. So IHB has 50 regular parking spots, and Satellite Beach has 216 regular parking spots. And if we look at census data from 2020, IHB has a population of 9,000. Satellite has 10,109. So that means IHB has 1 beach parking spot for every 180 residents, compared to 1 spot for every 47 residents in Satellite Beach, which is a disparity of 383%. So very significant. So I think objectively speaking, we can say that our parking is very scarce. And as we all know, Brevard is growing very quickly, and it's only going to get worse. Next thing I want to touch on is the revenue opportunity. I think someone mentioned that before, but someone mentioned the towing as well. And actually, over Memorial Day weekend, BICE was so busy that people were parking across the street in that empty lot. And normally, I think there's no issue with it, but I guess the towing companies saw it as a big payday for them. So they were towing a lot of cars that day, and I think that's just missed revenue for the city. So yeah, I think if we charge for parking, as residents, we'd have increased parking access, and non-residents could still enjoy it. They just have to contribute just as we do. Yeah, and I don't think there's any people or anyone here that is opposed to the beach parking. Maybe there are, but if you are, or if you think it's a non-issue, I ask you to support your claims with data at this point, because I don't think you can prove otherwise at this point. And yeah, maintaining our beaches isn't free, so I don't think it's unfair to ask people that don't live here to pay a nominal fee to come enjoy our beaches and maintain them. So yeah, that's really it. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil Yorio.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Yorio. I live at 211 Wimiko Drive, Indian Harbor Beach. I'm a lifelong resident of Indian Harbor Beach. I grew up at Bicentennial Beach, and I have been visiting Bicentennial Beach since before there was a paved parking lot, a shower, and dune crossovers. So I'm very familiar with that area. I used to regularly visit Bicentennial Beach because it was our neighborhood beach. It's where you went to see people that you knew around the neighborhood. Now that's not the case anymore, and I think you've heard that from a number of the previous speakers. I don't mind sharing our beach with other visitors. However, I'm a concerned taxpayer, and my tax dollars are paying for the maintenance of that beach, which has got to be a relatively significant number, given the number of staff that have to maintain the beach, cutting the grass, cleaning the bathrooms, other types of maintenance activities. We, as residents of Indian Harbor Beach, are paying for that park, yet we cannot use it anymore. because of the fact of the situation that other areas around us have paid parking. And so we find ourselves in a de facto situation of having to do something about the parking. And I would recommend that, I'm sure this has been considered by others, but obviously free parking for the taxpaying citizens of Indian Harbor Beach. And as well as, I may be so bold as to recommend a higher hourly rate on parking, and not as the surrounding areas, because of the point that Alex made of the disparate ratio of parking spots to residents of the city. So we want to, if people are going to use the beaches that we pay for, they should be contributing to the maintenance of those beaches. And I'd also like to recommend that whatever the council decides to do with this, to not go as far as the draconian policy of booting cars. That is a fail, a major fail on the part of Satellite Beach. They could be doing a lot better and treat it in a lot more friendlier manner than booting people's cars, than holding them ransom to get their car back. Parking is not a difficult thing to do. I've traveled all over the world. Paid parking is everywhere. And you can manage it in a way using an app on your phone that will allow you to pay for the parking. Periodic scans of the parking lot will determine who has not paid for parking. They get a ticket in the mail. It's that easy. So I'm 100% in favor of paid parking for our beaches. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jen McKendry.
Hello, everybody. Jen McKendry, 301 Wimico Drive. You probably received a few of my emails and videos of the beach parking situation, and you probably heard my gaggle of children as we walked in the door. I was recently frustrated about this situation. I mentioned it to somebody here locally, and they were like, oh, have you thought about walking to the beach? As you saw, I can't walk anywhere with these kids. And my husband's on shift, so I'm very limited on time. I'm a full-time working mom, so very limited on time. So I fully support paid parking. I've lived here for 8 years, and seeing how limited our parking is has been frustrating before I had children. Now, an even bigger concern is the homeless population and the safety of my children. I grew up on the Jersey Shore, where everywhere you went was paid. So we paid for beach tags, even as residents, and that made our beaches safer and cleaner. There was no downfall. Nobody complained. Of course, I would love free parking, but I would gladly pay for it too. I think it's going to only protect our children, and that's what truly matters. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next is Miro Romy.
Good evening. My name is Miro Romy, 911 Golden Beach Boulevard. So everybody made amazing points here, and they're all right. A couple of things that we missed. So as a family, if we go into the beach and we have no parking and we still want to go to the beach, we're going to end up at Satellite, and we'll pay for it as a family that lives in Indian Harbor Beach. So that's obviously a minus for us. Walking into our beach and cleaning after visitors, because sadly enough, we know everybody at the beach, and we all hang out together, and we all sit and shake hands and surf together. So when I turn around and there's garbage everywhere, and nobody else is picking up by us. So we're gonna sit around and clean up after them and get everything, for us. They don't care. So at the end of the day, it's just a deterrence of, okay, there's a couple of spots left, let's have them just pay for those spots. It's just good for our city. I think just another revenue for the city. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Meredith Sanford.
Hello, Meredith Sanford, 224 Bella Coola. Recently, my husband and I registered our car for a Satellite Beach parking. We were only able to have a few beach accesses. We are complete beach family. I go to the beach at least 3 times per day, every day. I've already been 3 times today. When I did go to the beach in Satellite that I was able to use my pass at, that beach limited the cars that I was allowed to put at that beach pass, which was difficult for me because I also have high school driver. So now I could only register 2 cars, and all 3 of us want to go and leave at different times, and I have children getting in and out of vehicles. So I really appreciate having multiple vehicles registered under a paid parking situation. I honor that. I think that's great. I don't want to be limited on how many cars I can register for my resident parking if that is an option. What ended up happening in that story was that I left that beach watching my son surf because he was done faster than I was. So all 3 of our cars left at different times, and I had other children with me. Storms were coming in, and I went to our beach. And what ended up happening, some local pulled in the parking lot before me and got the very last spot. So I was only able to park in a locals-only illegal parking spot. Thankfully, some stranger was pulling out, and I pulled in. The benefit was that somebody was considering being aware that I needed a parking space. I have asked multiple times for the Indian Harbor Beach to repaint every one of their beach parking spots. It is ludicrous that it has taken this long to repaint a parking lot. It's absurd that there are so many handicap spots with emergency vehicle spots. It just seems like it's not done the way it should be efficiently today. I would love to have that all repainted in every one of those spots immediately.
It's being done this week.
Thank you so much. The other thing is that I would love to make sure that if paying for parking happens, so many people are saying there's nowhere to park and there's people coming in from out of town or people staying at other reasons, parking. That is not going to stop. Just because you have paid parking, your beaches are going to be filled. So perhaps Indian Harbor Beach could buy a lot across, maybe somewhere, maybe buy a chunk of parcel. We're not going to run out of, we're going to run out of places to park. So it would be nice if we had extended parking somehow. I think that I had one more thing, but I'll leave it up to you guys.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the speakers from the public. All right, let's bring it back here to council for discussion. Yeah, I'll say a little bit to start with. I mean, I too grew up here, grew up surfing with Andrew at Bicentennial. Been here a long, long, long time, ever since and with Neil as well, ever since the dirt parking lot in Bicentennial. There was no parking there. You walked across the very hot sand and burned your feet to get there. And I too have seen a lot of change. And one of the first comments was made about admitting that we have a problem. I do think we have a parking problem. There's no question in my mind there's a problem with it in terms of the sheer number of people that want to use the beach now. I mean, we've all seen the growth, and it's westerly for the most part, and north and south on the mainland. And those folks, of course, want to come to the beach on weekends, sometimes weekdays, but certainly on holidays for sure. And that's what's overburdening the beaches. And yeah, when you have 2 beach parks with a very limited number of parking spaces, they're going to fill up. That's all there is to it. I do have mixed emotions about the thought of paid parking. I'm not saying it's would be right or wrong necessarily. I'm kind of on the fence on that right now. I would be more in favor of or willing to consider, from my perspective, I'm one of 5 here, some form of reserve parking, where a certain percentage of the parking spaces are reserved for resident-only parking. Be signed as such, and you would have to have some sort of decal or something along those lines that would be issued to your vehicles. That doesn't cure things. That's the thing. Is that this isn't good. You do paid parking. It's not going to cure it. I could very well show up at the beach noontime on a Saturday, even if it's paid parking, and there's a pretty darn good chance that I'm going to get frozen out of the parking situation. There's just certain times of the day, certain weather conditions, certain surf conditions that are gonna warrant more people being at the beach than other times. So it won't fix it, but I will admit that I think that something would help alleviate the problem. And, you know, just in my head right now, I'm seeing it as being potentially reserving for local parking only. Again, a certain percentage. I don't know what that number is. You know, I don't know if that's 40% of the spaces or 50% or what. But that's something I would be willing to consider from my perspective again. And, you know, the one thing that I will say that I think that a paid parking scenario would help with are the campers, the ones that show up there. I don't mean literally camping, but they're there all day long. We know who we're talking about here. There's a couple of folks that go to the beach parks, and they're there all day, every single day, and they're just occupying these spaces. I don't think that's fair. I don't know, you know, I don't know where they live. I don't know if they live local, if they live mainland. Well, I know where one of them lives. You know, that doesn't matter so much to me. And that's the other thing. So if any of them are local and we give out these passes, there's nothing stopping them from applying for a pass. So it's not a perfect solution, whatever it is we come up with. I agree. It'd be ideal if we had more parking. I understand that. It is a very challenging thing. Across from Bicentennial, the gentleman that owns that, he owns the Lowe's property as well. He's in no hurry he's not gonna sell anything, first of all. You know, best case scenario, you know, if we were fortunate, we could talk to him about potentially leasing a portion of his lot. And, you know, at least temporarily, we would have additional spaces if he was cooperative. You know, the city would have to indemnify him, provide insurance policy naming him as an additional insured or indemnify him. And those are all options that we should consider. And I don't know about the Atlantis office building, if that's an option as well. But keep in mind, we add more parking, more people are gonna come here. I can promise you that. They absolutely will show up once they realize there's more parking available. The times across from Bice where people did go and park in that parking lot area, it's very well signed, no parking anytime, but people will park there. The times that's happened, it seems like word gets out, and then there's a flurry of that activity that goes on for a few weekends, and then it dissipates when people start getting towed. Again, I don't know if adding more parking is going to it's just going to make a bigger problem or not. You're going to have a lot more people at the beach. That's the other thing to consider. So I know I'm going on and on a little bit, and I'll let my folks here talk as well. But one of the other things that I would want to do, because I realize everybody that's here is supporting some form of paid parking. You know, I think a good cross-section of the population is going to be, I mean, you guys showed up tonight for the meeting. Last time, the majority of folks that did show up were against it. So it may be that we need to do a citywide survey, a mailer, and let's get input from as many people as possible to find out. I get it, you guys are heavy supporters of this, but I think we owe it to the city and to the residents to get as true of a representation as we possibly can. So that's where I'm at this point. We'll see how the discussion goes from here. So, Deputy Mayor Girton.
Well, I've been here since '73, and so I've seen it go. And although I'm not a surfer, I did use the beach quite a bit and grew up with 4 kids, three of them still around, other ones out of town. But anyway, I'm totally in favor of beach parking. There's no doubt about that. It's just to be able to make it work for our residents. That's what we need to do. We have a limited amount of spots. There's no doubt about that. And we need to be able to work for our residents. We don't line up with people that come there at 6 o'clock in the morning, park their car, stay there till 5 at night or something. And so we have to go ahead and get some type of brain power to go ahead and come up with something that works for our city and works for you people. And, you know, I'm all in favor of you people, if you're gonna get a decal or a sticker or something like that, you know, you need to be able, if there's a space there, you need to be able to park. You know, there's no doubt about that. The other thing is, what I'm not in favor of is actually, you know, the beach parking costing the city dollars. It needs not to cost our residents dollars. We need to be able to make it up through paid parking. I just can't vote for something like that where we're subsidizing beach parking. I just can't do it to the city.
Do you mean paid parking?
Paid parking.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I say something different?
No, you said beach
No.
parking.
I'm sorry. Paid parking. That's enough for now.
Okay. Mr. Booth?
Yeah, thanks to everybody that came out. So we have basically 9,000 people for 57 spaces. The budget's gonna increase those spaces to 64 next year. As far as booting, I spoken with the mayor at Satellite Beach, and I forgot the literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in tickets that were not paid. People just left, you know, never paid them, so that's when they started booting. I don't like the booting idea because I've heard different aspects from people that have not had a good experience with that. Reserved spaces, how do we enforce them? Are we gonna have a police officer there all the time, or do we have to hire yet another employee to enforce that? Additional lot would be a good idea, but again, you're gonna have people coming in that wanna stay and use the beach. I think we have to look at something about the individuals we know that can be identified that use that as a all-day residence in a parking space. See what we can do to change that. And I'd like, in that, if we do a survey, I'd like some real suggestions from the citizens about how we would do this. Would we do it as a lottery? Or does everybody get a sticker? And then we mark certain spots that are for residents only? But there has to be, so that means there's no parking meter there if we decide to charge for parking. So we need suggestions on how to move forward with this. I, being new at this, didn't realize exactly the complexity of a city and how it's run, even though ours is so tiny. And to Meredith's suggestion about painting the spaces and such, there are so many steps that we go through to find the money to be able to do that. That's why we're looking at the increased parking spaces in 2025, because that's in our budget already. So, you know, to me, it's an issue. I still don't understand how we're going to be able to balance it out between so many people and so few parking spaces, and manage it so that you guys get to go to the beach and enjoy it, and at the same time we're able to make it safe, and that individuals that come from out of town, who should have the ability to come to the beach. I mean, how we're going to exactly manage that, it's a tough problem. So if we put that survey out, which I think is a good idea, I think we need areas on there for people to give us suggestions how we can attack this problem.
Okay. And I don't mean to hop in here too much, but yeah, the survey would, in my mind, would be either, you vote for, not vote, but your input is either you agree with reserve parking, paid parking or leave it as is. It would be a real simple survey. Want to make it as simple as we possibly can to encourage maximum participation. And then, yes, a comment section that people would have for suggested other alternatives beyond that. So, and about the parking lot restriping, John, that's being done this week, right?
Weather permitting within the next couple weeks.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a process, by the way, that we needed to cycle that with when we were already planning on doing the parking lot. This is at Bicentennial, the parking lot resurfacing or seal coating. So we wanted to put that in that same cycle. So that's why it took as long as it did. And there was also other steps involved. We had to make sure that emergency vehicles can adequately navigate the parking aisles. We didn't want to create a situation where if there's an emergency, fire truck can't get in all the way, they're blocked or whatever. So that's a very important component of it. So we did march through that. It did take some time. I certainly admit that, but we're there now. So I don't know exactly how many spaces more that it's going to create. I believe it was right around 7. Yeah. So should be able to squeeze another 7 out of Bicentennial. So Meredith, you get the last one.
I'm just working on community relations here.
Okay, sorry. Councilmember Hume.
Okay. I'm not a proponent of paid beach parking, and been a resident since 1977. I love the beach. I love going to the beach. I want to share with you a little personal experience I have with a parking issue. Not right here, but I think it'll show you where my heart is, that I understand your feelings. I'm a scuba diver, and I love scuba diving, and I go down to Riviera Beach. There's Phil Foster Park. It is one of the hidden treasures for scuba diving. You can see everything there, and it's great. This word got out that it's a great place to scuba dive. Well, now it's a 2-hour drive for me to go there. You go there, and now you can't find a place to park. I have all my tanks, scuba gear, everything. Many times, one of my group will have to drop all of our gear off by the water, and then somebody has to go park. And then we do it in reverse after scuba diving. So it's a real pain in the neck, and I wish there were parking there, that I could do that and make it easy like it was in the old days, because I used to be able to go and park easily. So I understand where you're all coming from with the frustration about not being able to park. One thing I think that we're really blessed here is that we have a lot of Brevard County parks still that have free parking. And even though those are free, all of the beach parks are filled on a beautiful day. So I don't really feel that having to charge for a parking spot is going to automatically make them available. And I hear people saying that because since Satellite did it, we should do it. I am not a proponent of that either. I'm very proud of our debt-free status here, and I'm very proud of the fact that we have a lot lower millage rate and taxes. It's very important when you're sitting up here and when you're representing all the taxpayers as a whole, it's important to take into consideration everything, not just the people that are here. If I ask you all right now, do you want to keep your taxes down? I bet you'd all raise your hand, yes, I know I would. And I don't see how with our limited number of spaces that it can be financially feasible. It would be a money drain. Like, I understand Cocoa Beach. I looked up all their parking spots, and they have this massive parking situation, and they have several thousand parking spots throughout their city and beaches that they charge for. So when they have the infrastructure to track it all, have enforcement, they have a lot more of the revenue source for so many people. Whereas with our 67 little spots, is that what we're going to end up with? 64, I thought it was. Anyway, I don't see how the infrastructure to do it is not going to be cost effective for the city. I think it's going to be a revenue loss. Now, it's because during the week when I've gone, and I've been really up and down the beach quite a bit since we've been discussing this, and there are, during the weekday, there's plenty of places to park at both Millennium and Bicentennial. During the weekday.
Stop. Please.
I know on a beautiful beach day weekend that it does pack up and that you do have to go down to any, there are other choices. But with the satellite beach, I did register my car and got my sticker, so I have access to 138 spots at Pelican Beach, and at Hightower another 33 at no cost to the taxpayers here. I always want to look about the future and the plan, and I don't see how it could be a positive revenue thing, a positive income. And then, and another issue I want to address is, yes, people do say, why don't you buy that lot across the street from Bicentennial? And City Manager Coffey, what was the going price on that? Wasn't it, how many million?
It was several million if the person was willing to sell.
If he was willing to sell. So, and one thing, too, I want to share about the history of our city is that we are so blessed to have Millennium Beach Park at all, and that there's not a condo on that property. Because how we were able to get that is because Mr. Codsey gave the city that land for Millennium Park, gave it to us. The city did give him something in return, a variance to make the next door condominium higher than the variance would allow, or than our rule was. We let him have a variance to build higher. But we got that beautiful little plot of land. And I just, if I felt like it wouldn't take a lot more time away from our law enforcement for enforcement, if we had a lot of parking spots, then yes, I think it could be cost feasible. But I don't think with our small amount of parking spot, and that would be the reason that I would not support it, is just because I think it would be not financially wise for the city. And I'll probably think of 10 more things I wish I would have said, but I love the beach, and I do walk the beach and enjoy. I'm a beach person. And the last thing I will say, just the last thing I will say is, it is true. Everybody is moving to Florida. This is paradise. We love it here. Everybody else wants to come here and love it too. So anyway, that's all that I'll share right now. But I just wanted to speak from my heart that it's a dollars and cents thing.
Okay. Excuse me.
Cocoa Beach has over 2,000 parking spaces.
All right, no. Please don't. Okay. Councilman Dyer.
So I'd like to thank everybody who came out tonight to speak on this issue. And I think one thing we all can agree upon is we'd all rather not be here and be having this conversation. But unfortunately, surrounding cities have gone to a pay-to-park model, and it's increased the parking at our beaches. I mean, the data's there to prove it. The police department's gone through and they've issued an increased number of tickets since they've implemented their program. We've tried to I go check the waves once, twice a week, try to go surfing there, and I can't park in my beach. You drive north, you look in Satellite, there's open spots, so it does work. Also, last time I believe 10 people spoke at the meeting and 6 of them weren't residents. I feel like everyone here is an Indian Harbor Beach resident, has been affected by the lack of beach parking. So, I mean, we do need to do something. I like the no paid parking, no fee for Indian Harbor residents. And together, through workshops like this, we can collectively brainstorm, come up with good ideas. I like Neil Yario had an idea that since we do have limited spots, potentially charging more for our fees. Also, if open it up to non-residents, because we all have friends in surrounding cities. We'd like to go to the beaches. We'd like to go visit their beaches as well. Long-term goals work on reciprocity with surrounding cities. Also, those stickers could potentially, for our beaches, could cost more because we have fewer spots. The ultimate goal, I think, is not to, be exclusive and not have people come to our beaches, just encourage people to move a quarter-mile down south to the public free parking beaches at Brevard County so our residents can enjoy the facilities and the beach parking that our tax dollars go into maintaining and fixing and cleaning up. So I agree it does have to make sense, and I don't want to increase a financial burden, but I feel like we could go to a kiosk system, no meters that requires maintenance, something like that, and have initially police officers patrol the parking and issue tickets, and then if it is cost effective, look towards parking enforcement strictly on the weekends, and then move forward from there. I think that would increase the safety at the parks. It would open up the spots, and we all already mentioned the long-term campers. And I think that's a safety issue. So I feel like the paid to parking plan would fix a lot of these issues that we talked about tonight. So I just want to say thank you for coming out, and together we can get this right. Because when your tax dollars are going to maintain a park that you can't use, I feel like that's an extreme disservice to our citizens, and we need to fix it.
John, Chief Butler had put together a prior presentation, I believe, and Chief, I think you looked at other jurisdictions and what system they used, and if I'm not mistaken, typically it's a vendor setup. It's a third-party vendor that does the installation of the kiosks, and then they get a cut of a certain percentage of the ticket revenue that comes in. There's going to be people are going to get ticketed for sure, so they get a certain percentage of that. So I'm glad you're standing there, but the one thing I just want to address with Ms. Hume is that, I don't think it's a scenario where it would cost us money. I think if it's citation based, and they typically will install the equipment for free or very low cost. I don't believe there's a lot of upfront cost to do that. And if it can be something that is, I don't want it to be revenue neutral, it would be great to have some money that will offset some of our expenses, but we have to be very careful and very thorough on, how is this going to be enforced? How much of our resources is it going to take? And those expenses have to be considered when we're doing our business model, if you will. We want to make sure that we're not leaving something out that we're just missing. So it needs to be your officer's time to enforce this, and then plus the cut that the vendor is going to get. What happens in 5 years when the salt air, does a number on those kiosks? Do they come back in and install new ones? Are there other hidden costs that we might not account for? So if we're going to move ahead in that direction as a city, then I just want to make sure that all the numbers are accounted for and that it is still a positive cash flow. I'm not in this personally. To me, it's the amount of money that I think we would ultimately net out of this is relatively small, just because we don't have that many parking spaces. But if it can offset maintenance costs to any significance, then it's something worth considering potentially. But I do think we need to get some sort of a survey assembled, get it sent out. Let's get it out to all the residents. It's great you guys have shown up here tonight. I think it's awesome when people show up here and participate. It doesn't happen that often. We usually have a pretty empty room here, but I think it's fantastic when people come out. But we also have to be careful as to what we're considering a representative sample. And I think some sort of a survey is going to help that. So you're not done yet. No, you're not done yet. So I just want to make sure that that I was not misspeaking about the vendor setup, the typical vendor setup.
So I can just kind of give you a brief overview real quick without going through the whole PowerPoint again. Satellite Beach, Indian Atlantic, and Melbourne Beach and Cocoa Beach all have paid parking. Brevard County and does not, or Patrick Air Force Base does not. They do a third-party vendor. We all know Satellite Beach. They use a third-party vendor in the sense that their enforcement is done through a third-party vendor. If they hire somebody who comes out, and if they find a violation, then they boot the vehicle. Has nothing to do with the police department. They do no enforcement whatsoever. Indian Atlantic's model, what they do is they use their police officers, and they also use a traffic enforcement officer to do it. Their model is a little bit different and unique in the sense that they'll write a citation. They've got it worked out. They use, for due process, if somebody wants to, they use the court system, the county court system, to enforce it. By doing that, by using that method, that model, is if a citation is not paid, then the violator potentially, or the owner of the vehicle, would not be able to renew their tags on their car. The model Melbourne Beach uses, Cocoa Beach uses, and we use we use a magistrate, so it's all done locally through the county or through the city. And we hire a magistrate to come in. If somebody wants to contest a citation, then they would go in front of a magistrate. If somebody doesn't pay, we try to get them to pay, but if they don't pay, there's really no.
And it's for parking violations,
For
parking in a
violations,
handicapped
correct.
stall when
Yes.
you're not supposed to.
Yes.
And, yep.
So out of all the models, probably Indian Atlantic's is the most, there'll be a little bit more cost associated with that. We have to work it out through our city attorney would have to work it out through the court systems and the county courts, but that is a model. And they do get the revenue from the citations that they issued. As far as we're concerned about the citations, we've issued since May, we've issued 31 citations at the parks, which is more than we normally issue. That's because citizens were complaining that there was no parking and people weren't parking properly, so that forced us to go out there a little bit more often. So we're out there checking the beaches more, concentrating on the parking, and so we've issued 31 citations. They deal with parking in the grass, not parking in a spot that is not technically a parking spot, just trying to find a spot within the beaches. So those are our options, I guess. Those are the models that I've done the research on that we can look at. And as far as enforcement goes, we're in Indian Harbor Beach. We can make anything work. Our police officers are there. I require them to do daily checks anyways, constant checks of the beaches anyways. So they would be there they're going to be there anyways, regardless if we have paid parking or not paid parking. I want them to constantly check our beaches. That is something that we're proud of here in Indian Harbor Beach. All our beach parks, not only our beach parks, but our city parks. So we can make it work. Now, if you want someone there constantly just strictly enforcing parking violations and kind of going back and forth, then we wouldn't be able to do that with the staffing that we have. But just random, every hour type of thing, depending on calls. Obviously, calls for service take precedence, but we could probably work something out.
Chief, those recent citations, were those fines?
They were fines, yes.
And how do we force those individuals to pay?
through the magistrate. I mean, we will send them letters if they don't pay within their given amount of time. We'll send them letters and ask them to pay, and if they don't, then they don't. But again, that has really nothing to do with the police department. That's done through City Hall. We don't usually
So we
get
have
involved
no,
in collecting the fines. We don't. The police department don't get involved in the collecting the
Right.
fines.
so do we follow it up here at all?
Do we?
No, the city.
Yes, the city does.
Okay.
Yes, but I don't know who pays or doesn't pay.
And do we have the same, John, do we have the same mechanism where if they don't pay, then they go through the county where they can't?
No, we don't use that model. We use the magistrate model. That's the model we use.
Yeah, and we're talking about, for what he's referring to, it's not paid parking type of citations. It's just people parking in the extra
Just all parking.
spaces
It'd
like
be all
Meredith does
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
Like all of us have probably done, but, yeah, you're parking in an unstriped parking space, or you're parked in a handicapped spot
Sure,
when you
yeah.
shouldn't be. That's that type of stuff. So we're talking about a small number of citations,
Right.
comparatively speaking, than
Yeah,
what we
31
would
does
probably
not.
have for a paid
Sure.
parking scenario.
Well, I brought that up because of what I was told by Satellite Beach's mayor, for the reason to start booting. I was just wondering.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't have those figures. We could probably get those figures for you to see how many people that haven't paid,
Yeah.
just in general.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's all I have on that, so,
No?
Thanks,
All right,
Chief.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
Um,
Chief.
So, I just want to mention, there were 2 emails that were sent in. Lee McElroy, she's in favor of paid parking. Just want to go on the record as stating that. And then we have another email from Dr. Arthur Paolella. It's a little unclear as to whether he's in favor of it or not. He's offered some suggestions to alleviate the problem, such as, says add parking spaces at our parks for residents only. I think he means make resident-only parking. Do not rent the pavilions on weekends. And then have a study done to see if there can be an increase in spots available, such as changing the layout of the parks like we're doing at Bicentennial. Reducing green space or anything that can increase even a few spots would go a long way. So again, want to go on the record to relay those 2 emails. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't know how the rest of council feels, but I would like to see a resident survey go out. I think it's important. This is a slow process, it just is. And we want to get it right. That's the important thing. So I think it's one more flush of getting as many people's input as possible is a good way to go, in my opinion. I'd like to see if we can see where we really stand on this. And I'm not doubting that you guys don't represent the community, but by the same token, I know there's people out there that may not be in favor, or might be neutral on the subject, or might have different ideas, and I'd like to vet that out. I think that's important. One of the other things I did here was, or I think I heard this, was maybe there's an opportunity to create little pockets for, I'm going to call it low-speed vehicle parking, not golf carts, but spaces such as that, so they're not occupying full-size vehicle spaces. If we can carve out little areas to do that without having a significant impact on the beach parks themselves and the green space, then that might be something to look into. But for the time being, again, I think the survey is a good way to go, and then from that we can see what the results are. And we'll probably need to do another one of these, and then at that point, we'll be making some sort of a decision on how to move forward. But you can see how, with the paid parking, there's various different ways of doing this. There's enforcement things we have to consider. We can't afford to do what Indian Atlantic does, where they've got I don't want to, meter person that is on a golf cart that goes all over to the various parks. And I certainly don't want to have somebody going up and down A1A from park to park, bouncing back and forth, and just doing that constantly. That's, to me, is not a model that works. It is gonna have to be our police officers that deal with this. And as the chief said, it's not like they're gonna be out there every, not gonna be camped out at the beach parks. That's, frankly, I don't want them out spending a majority of their time enforcing parking. They have more important things to do. But by the same token, that's an enforcement cost that we need to consider. And that's also a revenue thing that we need to consider as well. Because if we're not super proactive with the parking, well, that's obviously it's less revenue. So these are considerations that have to be had. So again, I think the survey is the next step, and then we'll go from there, and likely with another workshop, and then eventually get to a decision on this, one way or the other. So, anybody on council have any more comments?
No, I just would support you, Mayor. I think we're at a state that we need to go ahead and do all the work that we can to go ahead and see if we can make this thing work for our residents if we can. I heard some comments about people not like boot enforcement, and the reason why people do that is so they can get their money. New Smyrna Beach has got $750,000 outstanding, ballpark money. And this is why, you need some type of enforcement. So, boot parking may be the way to go, that type of thing. But I'm all in favor of trying to make this thing work for our residents. There's no doubt about it. Vacation rentals is a big thing, and we got people going down there and hanging out, and, they're not even, and they're just part of our city for 1 week or 5 days or whatever, that type of thing. So, but I'd like to see us make it work out, so you people get behind these surveys that's gonna go out there, and we'll see if we can get some good information to make it work.
Mr. Boone?
Let's do the survey.
Okay.
Well, the only thing I could think of to add was it would be interesting to note the people who do go to the beach, what percentage are local and what percentage are not. There may be, I know people do say, oh, there's out-of-state license plates here. And of course, that's mostly in the winter when we do have snowbirds in town. But I do know the beach parks were developed with Florida Recreation and Development grants, which they are to be open to the public. So for sure, we couldn't have just a locals beach. Due to how we got the funding to develop the parks. But I definitely want to pursue different options, and I would find it interesting, City Manager Coffey, if maybe we could look into, I believe Satellite Beach program has been in effect for a year. I would like to see what it's cost them and what revenue they've brought in, if we could look into that. I'd like to see that. Because that is fairly new. But I just appreciate everybody being here, too.
Okay.
Could I?
The public comment part is closed. So, sorry.
But thank you all for being here tonight.
Mr. Dyer?
Like the other council member said, I just want to say thank you for coming out. This is how we get this right, by listening to you guys, right? We work for you, so continue to come and contribute. And it is nice to see this room packed with all these good ideas. So thank you.
Very good. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, you may.